What if every experience, every hardship, every obstacle was given to you, not to break you, but to mold you and strengthen you? What if the center of your suffering was actually the key to ultimate health? And what if your own pain was meant to be the catalyst for your greatest purpose? Welcome to Buddha Belly Life, empowering purpose, mind to microbiome. So what are some tips that you have, for helping people achieve both? So helping them that, because I think there's a fine line between being present in your life and struggling to want or need to do all the things, So how do people balance that? How do they do? And I know that, you and I talked a little bit yesterday off camera, and we were talking about roles and stuff, and not to gender role anybody, because we do have, varying relationships and people. I tend to run a little more masculine than some women. But we do have these roles and stuff, and you do have pressure to be a provider. And and I can identify with that a little bit. You do have a lot of men who have pressure to be a provider. But when I was a single mom, I had pressure to be a provider too, and tend to my home and stuff too. And so sometimes I found that gets convoluted when I'm going, I also want to be with my kids, but my head is here and here and here, So it's what are some tips that you find, or how do you help people get into that state where they can make peace kind of with both, or design that component of their life?
Well, yeah, I think that's
just
a great
your
question.
Thoughts on that, even.
Well, I'll address the quick relationship question first.
Dynamic.
I think that it's not just that the fellas out there are reinforced for, culturally to be the provider. I think it's somewhat in our biology that we go out and we, fend off the barbarians at the gate, and that's how we keep our family safe.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they, if I would come home to a wife, and her idea is for me to be present for my kids, be at home and make sure to be there. But I'd be but they're barbarians at the gate.
Yes.
Who's going to keep us safe, right? So, and I think you pointed that out too. It's not about gender roles, but if that is a strong drive that a lot of men have in that respect, then first of all, I think understanding that is going to be helpful in a relationship that is not trying to mess things up. This is him keeping us safe. But also it's a great place where you can ask for help. It'd be the barbarians are slayed, you're awesome, and make him the hero. And then he can come back and be present with the kids because he understands that that's what it was needed. So what I'm talking about is not the right answers of what people should do, but once we start to understand what's important and why it's important in our partner, then all of a sudden we can start to help each other, because it doesn't need to be important or his, biology reinforced need to, leave the gate and go home to the family. But if he understands that's important, he's more likely to. And that way you can have this interconnected, supportive relationship, and loving and all that, the juicy stuff too, but where it doesn't have to be guilting someone up for trying to keep their family safe, or totally. Having the other reaction there. So one tip, figure out your relationships is a big one, I think.
I know. I was it does it.
To do that, I think it may be a little bit outside of the scope of the interview, because that's very dependent on what's needed. But I think being able to ask for what you need, I think, is a big one. Mm-hmm. And being able to listen to what the other what your partner is trying to say. And even if you don't understand, making that clear that I'm I want to help, I want to hear, tell me what's going on. And I want to make this, because sometimes we don't know that in the moment, that sometimes it can feel complaining, or it can feel overwhelm or something else. But it's usually people trying to do the right thing for between lovers and people you care about. And I think that, yeah.
That's such a great perspective. And it's funny that it keeps coming back to relationships, and just so people know, relationships are a lot of things. Maybe you are a single solo, and maybe you have a child, or maybe you have a parent or that you're really close with, or a sibling or a good friend or whatever. It's still, we can run away from life and relationship in a lot of ways sometimes when we get really, really caught up in our goals. And we have different seasons of life where that's going to happen. But that communication. So what's funny is what you're talking about is you're kind of talking about communication, but I feel like everybody says communication, but it's so general. What I love is that you broke it down where ask for things that you need and listen to what is needed. I can speak for this so much because I am married to a real estate agent, which is like the worst. It is the worst because you never know when you have to just stop and jump. You be in the middle of like a great conversation finally, and the kids are not climbing all over you, and the flipping phone rings. Right. And, or you think that, you're getting ready to make a Sunday breakfast, and then all of a sudden they need to go show a house real quick. Like it is rough. And we're actually, creatively, we're working our way out of, being that, not out of real estate, but out of being married to that model. But it takes time. And so in the meantime, I love that you say that, because I am terrible at asking for things. And I think a lot of women are like this too. Yeah. So I will have an expectation in my head that, you can do this or prioritize this, or see that us and the kids need some of this or that, but I won't ask it. And when if I don't see it, I'll get it, it'll bother me that I don't see it, because it's innate to me. It should be innate to you. Right.
Yeah.
And then we turn into the gremlin. And then you're jumping in the other person's shoes, and the other person's going, why the heck are you mad at me? I can never do anything right. But hey, guess what I can do right? I can do business right. I can do my job right, but I can't do anything right here because you're just always mad at me and I don't even know what to do better. And I love that you get to the bottom of those two things, asking for what you want or need and listening to what the person needs. So much more descriptive than
just for the women out there in the entrepreneurial world, like instead of, if you notice yourself or your man, right or wrong, believes that you're complaining, you'll just be pushing him away, pushing him into the office and all these sort of things. And if he communicates that to you, say you're sorry, and then follow up with a question of what you actually need. Like, oh, I didn't mean to complain. Like, here's what I would love more of, or like what I need right now, or how I want to help.
We need you more present, or we need, to discuss this, or I need your help with the dishes sometimes, or blah, blah, blah. Instead of just, well, I do all the dishes all the time. Oh, looks like the dishes are waiting for me again. Wouldn't it be nice to sit down and, hang out? That's like what we do, right?
Right. But that's the life puzzle. But I think when you're two and you have like a communication that is, working some of the time, it's sort of, then you have the opportunity to help each other. Whereas if you have that same dynamic and your communication isn't working, it's hell every day. And you come home from fending off the barbarians for 18 hours, and then there's like a load of the rest waiting, right? So,
do you have a desire for fulfillment? Does helping people tap into their own health mentally, emotionally, and physically fire you up? Do you believe in the impact of the gut microbiome on overall wellness? You may be an HWCA coach. For more info on our cutting-edge health coach trainings, visit hwcacoach.com. I think it comes down to is we have to put effort into all areas. And this is what I deal with as a health coach, and what a lot of the coaches deal with is we can't, if we're going to succeed in business or anything in life, we can't only try and put growth effort into the one area, right? Because if you're just trying to grow in business and you're ignoring your body, guess what? I'm on the other end of that, of all these people who are getting sidelined, and they're out of work. They all of a sudden they can't work. They can't do all this stuff because their body is just, toast right now. Or same with relationships and things like that. It's like we have to be able to make space to put in the effort in the things that are important to us in all areas.
Well, like I have a background in engineering, so, forgive the people out there that this might be a little bit techie, But if you want to if you want to build a really high building, like a tall building, like call it a successful business, for example, the height of that building will be determined on the strength of the foundation. Okay. When you're starting out and you have no clients, you don't need a foundation. Like nobody will know, nobody will care necessarily. Your house is not very big. But when you come up to sort of like Olympic athlete level, if you're a slouch, then all of a sudden you can't deliver like the other people are. And what I talk about a lot is not just, again, the happiness for bliss or figuring out relationships because it's beautiful. But what I talk about a lot with entrepreneurs is performance.
Yeah.
And when I say performance, it's not just like building the house, but like when you're happy in your relationships, you have that as support. It's not extra work or more time that you need to do. When your health is on fire, then all of a sudden you have more energy, you can get more done. You're more resilient to stress. And what's interesting is like I teach on something called the exponential life. And that is like when you have more energy, all of a sudden your relationship tends to go better because you have more sort of patience and you come from a better place. When your relationship is going better, all of a sudden your emotions do better because there's less conflict. Right? When there's less conflict, your emotions are better and all of a sudden your business is better. So there's like this ping pong effect, and I call it like the exponential sort of like growth factor, is that when you can make really small improvements in different areas, that will trickle down into your business too, because now you have more fuel to deliver. You're more present in your business. You can make better decisions now. And I think the old thinking of like, it's the hours that matter, I think just comes down to a little bit of like perspective, because you can be running in the wrong direction and running really fast, but like it's still not necessarily what's going to help you. So, yeah.
Yeah. And again, like pushing, because we're not valuing the things. Even just one thing I love about working in the brain gut connection is I got really into learning things about brain function, and I was in its connection to the gut and things, but all the stuff, especially for women, because we have more adrenal with childbearing and hormonal changes and stuff, we get more of the adrenal stuff. So the brain fog and stuff, but men too. And so it's amazing how many things mess with our cognition, like in our ability to think clearly. So therefore, if you're just pushing harder, you're pushing a broken mechanism and trying to make it roll, and it's not. You're smart to, it's like pushing the car because it's breaking down, but it's still just sort of running and it's sputtering, right? What do you need to do? It may take a week in the shop to get it fixed, but once it's up and running, it's going to actually be running. As opposed to if you keep pushing it, it's going to break even more and it won't run at all. And you'll be lucky to even get it into the shop, and we're like the same way. People are the same way.
Yeah. Like I use that metaphor a lot, like, the metaphor of upgrading your car. Like if you want to, be part of a Formula One race, and you show up with a beat up Volkswagen, from 1980s, vintage, right? Like that's okay. You might be able to be allowed in the race, but, probably not going to do very well because the car is not built for that. And if you go into the entrepreneurial sort of space, it would be interesting to figure out, like, for you to succeed at the highest levels, what would need to be in place in your life, including like happiness and drive and enthusiasm and, looking out for an exciting future, in order for you to succeed long-term, not just like this week.
And you know what I find too? Go ahead.
Well, what a lot of people do is they enter this like marathon and they start out by like dashing 100 yards. Which is sort of great for the first 100 yards, but it won't help you finish the race or feel good doing it or, succeed in the long run with it. So you want to make sure that you can have a pace that you can sort of keep going with and get stronger at. And that's a set point you can actually increase. So you can actually increase your performance. So
the governor,
you can go, like you can go faster with the same energy, if that makes sense.
Well, and I don't know if other people struggle with this, but I feel like talking to enough people in business, I hear it enough. But I know for me personally, I love getting in that space. I really love it, but I can get so amped in that space. I can get overstimulated, overamped to a point where I'm easily agitated. I stop being able to focus very well. I don't have patience for the rest of my life, and it's actually making sure that I have the other things that I need, like relationships or like community or some rest and downtime, nature. It's that stuff that is actually grounding. So if I don't have some of that, then I get too wiry in my headspace, in that space that I love so much. I get way too in my head, and it messes with me. Like I'm manic more,
Yeah, just insane.
Just a little crazy.
Yeah, but I think that's I think being aware. I think what we have the choice to do is to realize like where we are and what we need and what would help. So with, in my curriculum, I'm less, focused on like giving everyone the right answer and what people should do in their life. I think until people build their life around who they are as a person, I don't think they're even started playing the right game yet. I don't think they're in the game. Mm-hmm. Right. And I didn't used to be in the game, so I'm not, sort of pointing fingers here. Like, I'm the poster child of this. But I think that I have a longer story, like going down that track. But when you can build your life around who you are and your own strength, you cannot believe how much more energy you have, how less, like you don't have to play sort of like a lot of roles. You don't have to put on so many masks, which in my world just takes a lot of energy to uphold. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're holding the world on your shoulder anyway, it's unnecessary, I think. And especially as an entrepreneur, like you get to shape a business freely.
And people and stuff in the world. And yeah, totally.
Yeah. So in essence, I take care of the entrepreneurs that will change the world.
Thank you for joining us for another empowering episode of Buddha Belly Life. For more information on gut health and mindset resources, visit buddhabellylife.com. And remember, heal yourself and then empower others to do the same.